right, the Boston Globe. Did you see it this weekend? Publishing a fake issue of the Sunday opinion section. It slammed GOP frontrunner Donald Trump. The newspaper showed what it thinks a Trump presidency will look like 1 year into the future. The satire headline on the front page of the paper reads, "Deportations to begin," with smaller headlines reading, "U.S. soldiers refuse orders to kill ISIS families," and "Markets sink as trade war looms." The harsh critique sparked an equal reaction from Trump over the weekend, who called the newspaper, quote, "worthless."
How about that stupid Boston Globe? It's worthless, sold for $1. Did you see that story? The whole front page, they made up a story that Trump, they pretended Trump is the president, and they made up the whole front page is a make-believe story, which is really no different from the whole paper for the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing is made up.
Joining us right now, syndicated radio talk show host Howie Carr. Howie, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. What did you make of that newspaper, the Boston Globe? It was all fake news. I mean, they wasted an entire cover.
I know, Maria. It wasn't on the front page. It was in the opinion section. But you're right. They wasted a whole page. It was an April Fool's Day. They have a terrible reputation for, having fabricated columns, bogus polls. Think Mike Barnacle, think Jason Blair. That's where he learned his trade before he went to the Times. And Donald Trump is right. The New York Times bought that paper for $1.1 billion in 1993. They lost hundreds of thousands of readers, hundreds of millions of dollars. They were going to put the paper down. They were losing $80 million a year. It was such a bad, rotten, lying newspaper. And yet now they put this fake page out there. The other thing, Maria, is I don't understand the timing of it. It's a week, more than a week after April Fool's Day. Most people in the media don't even do April Fool's jokes anymore for obvious reasons. And the other thing is they have this overheated editorial inside, GOP must stop Donald Trump.
Yeah,
it reads almost exactly like the editorial they ran in February, right before the Massachusetts primary. Donald Trump got 49% of the vote here, or 31 points ahead of John Kasich. They obviously have no clout in the Republican electorate, not to mention the larger community. It's just it just brings back all these memories of bad journalism by the Globe. I don't know why they would do it. It doesn't make sense.
Georgette.
You wonder why Americans trust a used car salesman over the media.
Yeah, there you go.
This is a perfect example. What has happened to journalism? It's almost difficult to use that word.
Yeah, you can't use that word
about this subject. This is Saturday Night Live, and it's bad. If they paid $1 billion for this paper, it was $1 billion too much. I mean, this is a paper that should just be shut down.
Would they ever have done this to Hillary Clinton, Dagan?
Oh, no way, no how, because her supporters would have accused them of sexism, which is something that you're starting to get. Yeah, right. But you're starting to hear more and more of that. Senator Claire McCaskill, the nails on a chalkboard. Bernie Sanders says that she's not qualified, and then he has to backtrack on it. Is the undercurrent, and they're playing a very, very interesting game because they're anticipating they're going to go.
And they're not the only ones. Let's be honest. I mean, the mainstream
the Daily
media
News in New York, same thing.
That's a very good point.
It's been in her corner for a long time, and we're watching it play out. This is just an extreme example of supporting her.
What's the point you just made? Yeah,
Maria, one of the other points that you can make here is one of the headlines in the paper is new libel law targets absolute scum in press. Donald Trump, as you know, they sort of fantasized about going after reporters he didn't like. Well, can we have a little truth here? Who went after Citizens United? Who went to the Supreme Court to try to shut down a documentary that she found unflattering to herself? It was Hillary Clinton's minions. Donald Trump was just thinking about it, but she went to the Supreme Court. She still says she's going to shut down the First Amendment when it comes to criticizing politicians. I mean, who's the real villain here?
Unbelievable.
Howie, but you agree with this. This is a ridiculous cover, as have been the covers of the New York Daily News. And we, go back months and months for that. But Donald Trump does need to start thinking about, if you write down what he has said, that if you see it in a headline, then he needs to live with that reality of you're going to see it in print. The New York Times today, mainstream media, has a story of how he's back and forth on issues, whether it's nuclear arms in Japan and South Korea, to even the use of torture. So he does have to live with that.
I agree, but you know, what about the other candidates, as we mentioned earlier, that never do this with Hillary? How about one of my favorites from Bernie Sanders was he told John Harwood that there were too many deodorant choices for Americans.
Yeah, but you know, there's a fine line here with Donald Trump.
Can we bring up some of these things? He said that there was that women fantasize about being gang raped by 3 men. I mean, why is all this stuff off the table or barely on the table when Donald Trump it's open season on him?
But we have and it's a fine line with Donald Dagan, in that part of his appeal is that he says what a lot of people are thinking that's politically not correct. Now, he goes to some extremes and I agree. But it is got to be careful. I mean, part of Donald being Donald and his success is that he doesn't sound like a politician.
Yeah. Right. So how do you balance? Right.
Well,
so how do you balance that?
That's a good question.
Because now we're in that phase now where the issues are mattering. The issues, people are looking at the issues and going, wait a minute, where do you stand on this?
Yep.
And he's got to,
you're right.
Figure it out.
What you said earlier, he could have had this wrapped up months ago had he done more of what Dagan's talking about. Known that, you know what? Issues matter. Rally yourself around the issues.
Yeah, unequivocally, he could have had this wrapped up a long time ago because he's been controlling the dialogue, and that's what's most important. And he does have the coffers. You know, he's self-funding his own campaign.
But organization he doesn't have.
Exactly. And so he's chosen actually to attack the system instead of figuring out how to work the system, which he's used to.
Howie, final word from you there. Yeah, go ahead.
He has benefited from his attacks. Like, for instance, here in Massachusetts and in New Hampshire, the neighboring states, the Boston Globe is very unpopular. And he's been saying the same things you just heard him say yesterday about the Globe, about the Manchester Union leader. You know, and you can, you know, again, it's beginning to backfire on him now. But that's how he's gotten where he is by these attacks that resonate with the electorate.
Yep. Howie will be listening in on the Howie Carr Show. Good to see you, sir.